Today, we're going to do a deep forensic dive into just one single verse from the Qur'an. And on the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. It's about a thunderstorm. But hidden within that powerful imagery of lightning and clouds is a really sophisticated, logical proof for one of theology's biggest questions. What actually happens after we die?
So here it is. This is the verse at the center of our analysis. Surah Ar Ra, verse 12. He it is who shows you the lightning for fear and for hope, and raises the heavy clouds. I mean, the imagery is just so potent, so elemental, right? But what we're going to see is that beneath this really familiar description of a gathering storm, a profound argument is being built, piece by piece.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We're breaking it down into 5 parts. First, we'll look at the literal meaning, what's right there on the surface. Then we'll start decoding the verse as a set of divine signs. After that, we get to the core of it, how it all serves as proof for resurrection. Then we'll zoom out and understand the Quran's unique method of argument. And finally, we'll explore what this logic says about the very nature of belief itself.
All right, let's start at the beginning. Part 1. We're just trying to understand the verse on its most immediate, most literal level. What do we see and how does it make us feel? So on the surface, the verse is incredibly direct. Lightning. Well, it brings up 2 universal primal emotions, doesn't it? There's the fear of its raw, destructive power, but there's also the hope for the life-giving rain that almost always follows. This deliberate pairing of a physical event with our deep psychological response, that's our very first clue that we're supposed to be looking deeper.
Okay, so now let's take that next step and see how this verse builds into something much, much deeper. The key here is all about shifting our perspective. We need to stop seeing just a weather event and start seeing a form of communication, a set of intentional signs.
We can actually break the verse down into 4 key components. You've got the lightning, the fear it causes, the hope it brings, and, of course, the heavy rain-filled clouds. Now, in the Quranic worldview, these are not just random parts of a storm. Each one is a piece of a puzzle, a specific sign that's meant to be observed and understood. And this brings us to an absolutely crucial piece of terminology, the word ayah. In Arabic, this word means 2 things at once. It means a verse, like a verse in the Quran, and it also means a sign out in the world. Now that is not a coincidence. The Quran is actually presenting the natural world as another book of revelation, one that's full of signs that point to a greater reality, if only we learn how to read them. So you have to ask, if these are signs, who's the one sending them? Well, the verse literally begins with, He it is who shows you. This points to what's called the mutakallim, or the speaker. And this detail is so important because it reframes the entire storm. It's no longer just a chaotic event, it's an intentional act of communication. The weather itself becomes a message.
Now we're getting to the heart of it. This is the central argument. How does a storm, a message from this speaker, actually form a logical proof for something as profound as the resurrection of the dead? I mean, we really have to ask, why these specific signs? Why this particular combination of lightning, fear, hope, and rain-filled clouds? What is the ultimate truth that's being demonstrated here?
And the truth it's demonstrating is the reality of ma'ad. This is the theological term for the return, for the resurrection of every single human being on the day of judgment. It's a concept that, it requires a leap of faith, but what the Quran is arguing here is that it's also a leap of logic.
Right, here it is, the core of the logic laid out as a direct comparison. On one side, you have a process we can all see. Rain falls from heavy clouds onto what looks like dead, barren earth, and life springs forth. The earth is revived. Then, on the other side, that exact same logic is applied by analogy to us, to humanity. The argument is beautifully simple. If a divine power can bring an entire dead landscape back to life, something we witness every single year, then why would it be illogical for that same power to bring a deceased human being back to life?
And this way of reasoning, it isn't a one-off thing just for this verse. It's actually a consistent logical strategy that you see throughout the Quran. It's a very distinct way of building an argument by using what we can see to prove what we can't.
You can really lay out the process in 4 clear steps. First, present an observable sign, an ayat, like the revival of the earth by rain. Step 2, you acknowledge the incredible power it takes to make that happen. 3, you apply the logic of that power by analogy to an unseen concept, like resurrection. And finally, step 4, you arrive at the logical conclusion that this unseen reality isn't just possible, it's actually plausible.
So the really crucial point here is this. The argument for the afterlife isn't just presented as some piece of abstract philosophy. No, it's grounded in something you can literally see, touch, and witness for yourself. It's an empirical argument. The evidence is the world all around you, repeating its cycle of death and rebirth every single year.
And this leads us to the final, and I think most fascinating turn in this whole argument. Because from this perspective, from this Quranic point of view, our usual assumptions about what's logical to believe actually get flipped on their head.
Earlier in the very same chapter, in verse 5, it says this, "And if you wonder, then wondrous is their saying, when we are dust, shall we indeed be in a new creation?" Now that word for wonder here is ajab, and it can mean strange, amazing, or wondrous.
And here it is, the intellectual checkmate of the argument. It suggests that after you've been shown the proof, after you've literally witnessed the entire earth being brought back from a state of death with nothing but water from the sky, the truly strange, the truly wondrous and illogical position is to then look at human mortality and say, no, that's impossible. In this framework, it's disbelief, not belief, that becomes the strange thing, the thing that's actually hard to explain.
So, this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If we were to apply this method today, this way of reading the world as a book of signs, what would we see? Maybe it's the birth of a star in a distant nebula, or the mind-boggling complexity of a single living cell. What are the modern signs that point to a reality beyond what we can immediately see? It's a really powerful lens through which to view our own world.